Sometimes I get a little emotional, that's all. There are no bad joints. Hi, Paul Langen. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Creep weed. Weed you smoke, get high, and 20 minutes later, you're stoned out of your mind. Oh, creeps up on you. Oh. I don't know. I think it's actually too loose in the bottom. I'm not sure. It's not good. It's not the best joint. Let's put it that way. All joints are bad. Nancy Reagan. Oh, yeah, I could have smushed it a little bit. Thanks, G. Ooh, a blueberry scone. That sounds good. I can't read that. Creepin' Jesus. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. You're my bestie, too. Gal, you're my bestie. That's for sure. Gently roll out that thick part to encourage airflow. Oh. Oh. Doesn't feel that tight. It must just be, I must have done something wrong. I can't quite tell what I did, but I feel like it's a little sparse in the middle or something. You had oatmeal with blueberries and rice milk. That sounds so good. Wow. Jesus, I'm stoned. I think I have it now. Yeah, now I have it. Now it's working. Now it's operational. We've overcome the deficiencies. Okay. I'm going to read this. The government's reply to the defendant's discovery motions. This was filed yesterday. And this is Jack's response to Trump's response, which we read, I think, the way before. Oh, you have leftover rice. You should have it with blueberries. Oh, what a good idea. Oatmeal for me with blueberries. What? Lion's mane powder? Strawberries, banana, maple syrup, and soy milk. Whoa. That's a healthy bowl. I'm seeing the Lord. Yeah. Document to read. Check. Here we go. Coffee. Check. All right. The court ordered the defendant to supplement his discovery motions by identifying in his reply any specific evidence related to presidential immunity the defendant believes the government has improperly withheld. I still need my glasses. Okay. Excuse me. I'm going to take some coffee. All right. All right. Let's see. What else? Okay. So that he could subsequently review any additional discovery he receives and incorporate it into his immunity briefing. The defendant did not comply. Instead, he filed a reply designed to disrupt the court's previously ordered schedule. With respect to immunity demands, over which the defendant failed to confer with the government before filing, the defendant's requests are too vague or irrelevant to be helpful to the court's fact-bound immunity determinations, or they seek materials that the government long ago produced in discovery. The defendant otherwise uses his reply to improperly demand dismissal and seek reconsideration of several of the court's previous decisions, including the current briefing schedule for addressing immunity issues. Oh my God. My nose. The court should reject all of the defendant's non-immunity-based discovery requests and reserve ruling on the defendant's immunity-based demands until he pursues them fulsomely, first by reviewing the government's immunity brief and the disclosures he has already been provided, and then, and only if necessary, by including in his immunity filing due on October 17th, any clear requests for specific discoverable evidence on presidential immunity that he claims that he lacks. Let's see. Oh man, the problem is it goes out. Are blueberries in season now? Neil, how does one get close enough to a lion to get his main powder? What is that? Is it like a supplement or something? I don't get it. Oh man. Okay, I'll have to wait. That's fine. It's not that many pages. Okay. Flash frozen. Oh, Wegmans, yeah. Wegmans is good. We used to have one in Brooklyn. That was cool. It was a good store. Okay. Brr, brr, brr. The defendant's immunity-based requests are designed to disrupt the court schedule. The defendant's conduct in this litigation suggests that he is less concerned with promptly receiving and using additional immunity-based discovery, which the government does not believe exists, and more interested in using the discovery process to delay the court's immunity briefing schedule. First, despite the government's direct invitation of specific immunity-related discovery requests and the court's explicit expectation that the parties meet and confer and discuss potential discovery issues, the defendant made no outreach about the immunity-based discovery prior to filing his reply, promising to transmit specific immunity-related discovery requests to the government. Next, he filed his reply in which he fails to identify specific evidence he claims to be necessary for his immunity filing and instead declares that the court should abandon its considered briefing schedule for conducting the immunity analysis that the Supreme Court directed on remand. Boy, he really doesn't want to have this thing happen, does he? He really doesn't. It's crazy. And on September 25th, only after the court granted the government permission to file this reply and rejected the defendant's unwarranted demand to upend the briefing schedule, the defendant sent the government a letter purportedly requesting discovery on immunity issues. That letter does particular damage to the defendant's false suggestion here of, quote, ongoing discovery violations in this case. At one, because it makes multiple requests for material that the government already produced. Oh my God, he's just trying to like totally, he's just delaying. This can't be right. This series of actions suggests that the defendant will use his deficient discovery demands and the fact that he will have obtained no new material through them to try to delay his immunity filing to disrupt the court's entire schedule. The court should not countenance it. Overall, the court should not credit the defendant's claims that he lacks the discovery to which he is entitled because he does not appear to have command of the materials that the government has already produced. As described throughout this reply, the defendant's reply repeatedly demands materials that the government has already provided them. And in the discovery letter that the defendant sent the government last week, he asked for multiple categories of information that he has had for more than a year, including reports and transcripts for 2 interviews of a particular witness, text messages for specific individuals, and presidential daily diaries, all of which he received in the government's first discovery production on August 11th, 2023. And as is evident from the government's detailed source logs, the defendant's request for PDDs is particularly notable because they are defendant's own records to which he has access even outside the criminal discovery process and which the government received only after the defendant's designated representatives reviewed them in October 2022. Quote, the presidential records of a former president shall be available to such former president or the former president's designated representative. Quote, the archivist promptly notifies the president or their representative during whose term of office the record was created of a request for records for consideration of, quote, asserting a claim of constitutionally based privilege against disclosing the record. The government responded to the defendant's discovered letter earlier today, see attachment A, and stands ready as always to assist the defendant in locating all relevant materials already in his possession. The entirety of the defendant's immunity-related contentions in his 34-page reply boil down to the following: that the Supreme Court's decision in Trump v. U.S. requires the government to conduct, quote, a new case file review based on a lawfully defined prosecution team, and 2, that the defendant is entitled to attorney work product and internal deliberations on Justice Department officials' views of the scope of executive authority and any dangers of intrusion on the executive branch posed by this prosecution. And 3, that the government has failed to provide discovery that would provide context for the charged conduct that this court will examine as part of its immunity determinations, including regarding his power to speak publicly. All of these claims fail. Of them, only his request for information providing context for his charged conduct would be material to the task at hand, providing briefing to the court as it makes immunity determinations if the request sought legitimately discoverable information that the government had not already provided. The defendant's requests, however, do not. Below, the government takes the defendant's contentions in turn and explains why the defendant's new arguments continue to misstate the applicable legal standard. The government has already thoroughly reviewed its case file. The defendant is not entitled to materials related to internal Justice Department deliberations, and the defendant's requests for information related to context are unsound. The defendant urges a rudderless approach to discovery by seeking to do away with the materiality standard for discovery demands, having previously argued by misquoting the relevant law that he was entitled to discovery with some abstract logical relationship to the issues in the case. The defendant now abandons that erroneous test in favor of no materiality standard at all. To muddy the applicable standard, the defendant cites a single district court opinion, U.S. v. Sutton, which does not reflect the overall state of law in this district. This is from U.S. v. Libby, explicitly rejecting the overly broad approach to discovery. Quote, that the government search was to be limited only by the rule of reason. In another case, by the same district court that later decided Sutton, because as Libby court stated it needs not, nor does it believe it could adopt such a broad reading of the applicable case law in this circuit. The applicable discovery rules all incorporate a materiality standard. U.S. v. Graham, the Brady, and Rule 16 materiality. And as the government previously laid out, the ECF number blah, 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 and as the defendant previously conceded, materiality is inherently tied to the allegations in the indictment. Quote from Libby, a court must first start with the indictment when determining what is material. It is likewise tied to the evidence the government plans to introduce at trial, which it laid out in detail in its motion for immunity determinations. The governing materiality standard rejects overbroad, speculative, vague, or tangentially relevant requests. Citing cases addressing speculative and vague discovery demands. In addition, and contrary to the defendant's arguments throughout his reply, the court must account for relevance and cumulativeness in deciding materiality, even if such factors are not dispositive. Because the government has already produced video evidence on the requested topic, any further duplicative evidence is not material under either Brady or Rule 16. Quote, information in the other redacted portions of the SRT report is cumulative and not material under... Okay, so that's fine. That's not helping. Denying requests for information that was irrelevant to defendant's underlying offense. These considerations are consistent with the principle that a defendant cannot undertake a fishing expedition and instead must show that discovery sought would enable him to significantly alter the quantum of proof in his favor. Specific to Local Criminal Rule 5.1, the defendant asserts that the government has ignored that rule, which he argues requires additional disclosures, including, as described below, on the topic of presidential immunity. He is wrong. Overall, Local Criminal 5.1 is coextensive with and confirms the mandate of Brady v. Maryland, requiring disclosure of things like information inconsistent with the defendant's guilt, mitigation evidence, evidence of an articulated and legally cognizable defense, and credibility or impeachment information. Bye, neighbor. The rule requires government to disclose such information to the defense as soon as reasonably possible after its existence is known, which the government has done. Indeed, far from ignoring the rule, the government has exceeded its obligations and provided broad and early discovery. The discovery has included information bearing on the defendant's immunity defense and, in compliance with Rule 5.1, in particular, material from government officials who have participated in the investigation and prosecution of pending charges. Although the defendant urges the court to distrust the government's discovery compliance representations, he identifies no specific information purportedly withheld in contravention of Rule 5.1 or any other rule. The government has already reviewed its case files. The Supreme Court's decision in Trump did not expand the scope of the prosecution team as the defendant implies, and the government already conducted a thorough review of materials in the prosecution team's possession and produced any discoverable material to the defendant. Contrary to the defendant's contention that the government cannot meet their obligations by arguing that they took a broad approach to discovery at the outset and insisting that their initial collection adequately encompassed discoverable information relating to presidential immunity, that is exactly the case, because as the government has repeatedly explained throughout this matter, it routinely produced materials above and beyond its obligations under Rule 16. As a result of this expansive approach to discovery, the government has already produced all of the evidence in its possession regarding the context of the defendant's acts. For example, the government did not simply produce evidence of what the defendant said in his speech on January 6, but also the evidence that the government possesses regarding the preparation, planning, and funding for that event. No new discovery review or production, apart from the government's usual and continuing obligation, is necessary because it has already been done. I'm going to catch up with chat. What do we got? Gal, you've got Dave Troy, and we got a New York Times. Let's see. Ooh, Elon. Dave Troy traces his beliefs and behavior to paint an altogether more concerning picture of the ex-owner's political and cultural journey. Interesting. Wait, I want to see if I can catch up with people. Hold on. What's going on? Oh, here we go. Let me take a minute. Overbearing strawberries. What are overbearing? What does that mean, Max? Hi, Peace Love. How are you? Best nibble food while listening to boilerplate legal language AMSR from the most FM ready voice on YouTube and XA Paul. Oh, that's funny. Elon Musk, A Dangerous Evolution, has the world's richest man simply lost his marbles or been radicalized by his own platform. I mean, wasn't he always kind of like, I mean, this is where pop culture helps us a little bit. If we go back to Grimes and his relationship with Grimes. Yes, GP, the document, I'm so sorry. The document that I'm reading is related to the DC case where it's for overturning the election, basically. It's kind of a big case. And basically, Trump's whining that he hasn't gotten to see all the evidence. Well, unfortunately, the government's explaining here that they really have turned over everything that is relevant. And I actually probably believe them. But I don't know. I doubt that they have anything else. I wish I liked figs better. I bet you they're really, I know they're good. I know, figs and like goat cheese. I think I can eat them in small amounts. Otherwise, they freak me out. Sure, no problem. Thank you. Oh, is there, wait, what's that, gal? Let's see what else you have. Oh, that is the same thing. Sorry. Okay. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. Okay. There. Okay. Let's see here. The expansive nature of the government's previous searches and resulting productions on to the defendant is evident from the government's motion for immunity determinations and accompanying appendix. With the exception of a handful of publicly available sources, the government long ago produced this material to the defendant in discovery, even though much of it was arguably not discoverable. This includes material that goes to context and that the defendant incorrectly claims he does not already have, such as proof of the funding and the organization of the Ellipse rally at which the defendant spoke on January 6. Evidence about the defendant's actions surrounding meetings and communications that the government contends are unofficial, and other information indicating private rather than official conduct, like Hatch Act warnings and use of private email accounts. The defendant's assertion... Sorry. Well, that is probably part of the problem. Okay. The defendant's assertion that he does not have such material appears to based on the faulty assumption that the government did not already produce it, as it did. Counsel counsel assuming there is discovery that has not been turned over because the government never had to really look at issues relating to immunity before. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. We don't have any kitties. I don't need a kitty here. Okay. Ah, okay. The defendant's request for information about internal legal analyses is not discoverable or relevant to the court's fact-bound analysis. The defendant makes a broad request for material regarding determinations of official conduct and for information relating to actual or threatened dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch. To this end, he seeks discovery of the government's prior positions on the scope of executive authority. These legally unsupported demands seek disclosure of work product, legal opinions, and other material that is wholly irrelevant to any valid defense on the issue of presidential immunity or to the court's fact-bound immunity determinations. First, the government's prior non-public positions on executive authority in other cases or contexts, to the extent they even exist, are not material to the issues in this case and are not discoverable. The Supreme Court remanded the case to this court to determine whether the defendant's acts and statements were official, and if so, whether the presumption of immunity can be overcome. This exercise requires a fact-bound analysis of the defendant's words and actions, not consideration of the government's prior positions on purported exercises of executive authority. The defendant cites two cases which the government was either ordered to or agreed to disclose executive branch decisions or deliberative documents. In both cases, however, the court ordered discovery of certain documents found to bear on the defendant's mens rea. They both related to specific acts charged in the indictment and were relevant to the defendant's motive and beliefs at the time of the alleged crimes. The presidential immunity inquiry in this case is decidedly different. It is an objective analysis of the defendant's conduct, and his motives are specifically not to be considered. In dividing official from unofficial conduct, courts may not inquire into the president's motives. The defendant cannot explain how the government's prior positions on executive authority could be relevant and discoverable. He suggests that such material could lead to testimony from current or former government officials who disagree with the special counsel office anticipated positions on issues related to presidential immunity. By advancing this near limitless rationale, however, the defendant continues to ignore settled law confirming that the government work product opinions on legal issues and mental impressions are not discoverable. Look at all these quotes. The defendant's reliance on Poindexter for this issue is misplaced. In Poindexter, the defendant was charged with obstruction crimes in connection with his alleged participation in a scheme to conceal the National Security Council's Iran-Contra activities from Congress. The court found that contemporaneous executive branch documents supporting the legality of those activities that were known to the defendant could show that he lacked a motive to lie to Congress, which could in turn negate the specific intent element required for the charged crimes. The court further found discoverable certain documents regarding the knowledge of other high government officials of the NSC's Iran-Contra activities. Only after discerning specific ways such knowledge could bear on the defendant's motive or mens rea. Implicit in the court's reasoning was that the knowledge of others would be relevant if the defendant knew at the time of the alleged crimes what others knew. Without the defendant's knowledge, what others knew could have no bearing on his mens rea or motive, as the courts in the U.S. and blah, blah, blah explained. Here we go. Here's a quote from Poindexter. Judge Green permitted discovery concerning the knowledge of others involved in Iran-Contra because such discovery might tend to show that the defendant had no intent to conceal information and that he thought his actions were legal. In U.S. v. Secord, former Chief Judge Robinson, denied this sort of discovery to the defendant on the grounds that the defendant had not been able to establish nor had even proffered that the defendant knew what information others had. Without this crucial link, the discovery was not material to the defense because it revealed nothing about the defendant's state of mind. This court believes that Judge Robinson has the better of the argument. It is immaterial what Congress knew unless the defendant was aware of their knowledge. In other words, Poindexter does not hold, as the defendant suggests, that executive branch documents are evidence of what others knew or believed at the time of the alleged crimes are per se disclosable, even if they may touch on the subject matter in an abstract sense. Rather, there must be a specific and articulable relationship to an issue in this case, whether it be the immunity determination or the defendant's mens rea. requiring a detailed proffer to meet the materiality standard, or in George, finding that the defendant failed to meet materiality standard for broad requests. Here, the defendant fails to show any logical connection between evidence of the government's prior positions on executive authority and the context-driven, fact-bound immunity determinations before the court. The defendant's requests for discovery regarding alleged context are irrelevant, vague, and call for material the government has already produced. The defendant further requests, broadly and without specificity, discovery regarding the context in which the alleged conduct took place. As with all requests, this demand must meet the ordinary requirements of discovery, namely, 1, whether the requested documents are within the possession of the prosecution team, and that they are held by an entity that is closely aligned with the prosecution and thus can easily and fairly obtained by the government, and 2, whether the defendant has established that the requested documents meet the test of materiality to the defense for which it is sought, as established in Libby. In this respect, context is not an infinitely elastic term justifying vague discovery demands. For context evidence to be material to an immunity defense, it must logically bear on the immunity determination before the court. That is, whether the specific acts of the defendant to be proven in the case are official, and, if so, whether the immunity presumption can be rebutted. In imposing a requirement that the court consider context, the Supreme Court in Trump offered the example of the defendant's communications on January 6, stating that what else was said contemporaneous to the excerpted communications, or who was involved in transmitting the electronic communications and in organizing the rally, could be relevant to the classification of each communication. The Supreme Court's reliance on Snyder v. Phelps is also a guide. There, in reviewing the context of the speech at issue in that case, the Supreme Court considered where the speech occurred. To be sure, the relevant context evidence may be narrower or broader depending on the act or speech under consideration, but at a minimum, there must exist an articulable and logical connection between the purported context and the specific allegation to be proven or the evidence to be admitted at trial. In making his ill-defined demands for context discovery, the defendant has not even attempted to meet this standard. In any event, the government previously disclosed to the defendant all discoverable information that it possessed relevant to context, and it went a step further in its filing on September 26 when, in this document, it provided the defendant with a detailed fact-based proffer of its case in chief. That proffer shows the defendant's demands for contextual discovery are either irrelevant because they pertain to conduct that is not charged in the superseding indictment and that the government does not plan to use at trial, or the defendant already has all the responsive material within the government's possession. Take, for example, the defendant's demands for disclosure regarding his public statements. The government has already provided the defendant with voluminous and complete discovery related to the context of this conduct relevant to the superseding indictment, including information in the government's possession regarding the timing, drafting, and funding of those statements. And the government's extensive factual proffer and contextual analysis of these issues in its motion for immunity determinations and accompanying appendix provide the defendant with specific references to evidence regarding his public statements that the government previously produced to him in discovery. The voluminous appendix, for instance, includes interview transcripts and reports, PDDs, which is Presidential Daily Diaries or something, digests or something, emails and text messages, and other relevant records that the defendant has long possessed. And the motion explains to the defendant how the government believes those records are material. Because basically the government's like addressing all of the, like, this is how we're going to use all this evidence. And basically, seems like they've given them a lot of information. I don't know. Similarly, defendant makes a generalized request for national security information like the 2016 and 2020 election intelligence community assessments and new arguments regarding solar winds, both of which the government addresses further in its classified supplement. And he again demands information related to requests for security at the Capitol on January 6. Here, too, the government already provided the defendant all discoverable materials in its possession on these issues. But in addition, as is clear from the superseding indictment and the government's factual proffer, none of these materials is relevant to any defense of the evidence of the defendant's private conduct that the government will present at trial. Libby requiring discovery limited to the defendant's response to the government's case in chief or to the court's consideration of context as it makes immunity determinations. The court should reserve ruling on the defendant's immunity-related demands and order him to perfect them in his October 17th filing. For all of these reasons, the court should reserve a ruling on the defendant's immunity-related demands. Specifically, the court should direct the defendant to try again to do what it previously ordered and what he could easily have done in the 3 months since the Supreme Court's decision, to thoroughly review the expansive discovery he has already received and make clear demands for any specific contextual evidence related to presidential immunity that he believes is in the government's possession and has been improperly withheld. The government is confident that no such additional material exists, but such a process would ensure that the court has the benefit of all information relevant to its immunity determinations. This process, necessitated by the defendant's delay tactic, should be incorporated into rather than delay the court's ongoing schedule for briefing on immunity determinations. The government's opening immunity filing not only provided the defendant with a detailed roadmap of its case in chief and evidence regarding context, it also provided him with a voluminous appendix appointing him to material that the government long ago produced to him in discovery, much of which directly answers variations of the request the defendant submitted in his discovery letter the day before the government's filing. In light of the defendant's deficient discovery demands here, the court should order the defendant to review the material he has already received and include in his responsive immunity filing due October 17th any properly specific remaining demands. Such a process will clarify any live discovery issues for the court's resolution or otherwise confirm that no further discovery is necessary before the court makes its immunity determination. There is another reason the court should reserve ruling to ensure that it makes all of its immunity-related decisions, even those regarding discovery, at the same time in a single order. Given the history of this litigation, the defendant's repeated request to resist the court's schedule for addressing immunity issues, Oops, I lost my place. Addressing immunity issues and his implied preference for successive inefficient rounds of appellate review, claiming that a schedule that leads to only one additional interlocutory appeal is extra legal. The defendant may attempt to use any interim denial of his deficient immunity-related discovery demands as the basis for a frivolous interlocutory appeal, an appeal that the government would contest. Quoting U.S. v. Zone per curiam, discussing appealability of discovery demands in conjunction with a double jeopardy-based interlocutory appeal. The court should thus refrain from entering an order denying the defendant's frivolous immunity-related discovery demands at this time and should instead direct him to perfect them as part of the court's ongoing process of addressing all immunity-related issues. Adopting this course will advance the court's responsibility to police the prejudgment tactics of litigants and avoid piecemeal prejudgment appeals that undermine efficient judicial administration. It will also not prejudice the defendant. If the court ultimately grants the defendant's motion to dismiss on immunity grounds, then any immunity-related discovery demands in the same ruling in which it makes other immunity determinations, the defendant may pursue an interlocutory appeal on any denial of additional immunity-based discovery at the time he seeks review of the merits of the court's other immunity determinations. The court should deny the defendant's non-immunity-related discovery request and improper request for dismissal and reconsideration. For the reasons in the government's opposition, the court should deny the defendant's non-immunity-based discovery demands. The defendant also uses his reply as an opportunity to improperly request additional relief, dismissal and reconsideration of several of the court's previous sound rulings. First, the defendant dramatically seeks dismissal of the charges against him, pronouncing at the outset of his brief that this case should be dismissed promptly. Yet he offers no authority for his requested dismissal, and apart from his opening salvo, never mentions it again. Then the defendant attempts to seek reconsideration without any basis of the court's September 5th scheduling order, which the court has already denied, and the court's order denying his motion to dismiss for vindictive and selective prosecution. For both, the defendant simply recycles arguments already offered to and rejected by the court, and he does not even address the standard for reconsideration, likely because he cannot possibly meet it. See U.S. v. Purdy, which says, laying out basis for reconsideration and finding it not warranted, where a defendant mostly reiterates the reasons already rejected by the court and any additional reasons fall short of a significant change that would justify reconsideration. The court should deny the defendant's improper efforts to seek dismissal and re-litigate his empty, selective, and vindictive prosecution claims, just as it did his rehashing of the complaints about the briefing schedule. The defendant's arguments in support of his discovery, including invoking presidential don't provide any facts. Jack Smith. That's Jack Smith. I'll link that in the description after the video. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. La, 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 la. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? I just need a break. I like strawberries. I like strawberries. I'm not a huge blueberry fan. I don't know. I don't know why I'm not a huge blueberry fan, but I'm not. I really like raspberries and blackberries. I mean, I'll eat blueberries, but they're not my favorite. I don't know why. I wonder why. I don't think I like their they're like I'm not sure I'm in love with the consistency of boba. You know how have you ever had a boba tea? Which I really like, but they're like those little tapioca pearls. I just there's something. I mean, I actually really like those, but I don't know. Blueberries kind of explode in your mouth, and there's something weird about that. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I think I need to delve into why I have such an issue with blueberries. Wow. Let's pull up the campfire while I smoke the rest of this joint. Yep. What is it? Wednesday? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. 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 God, I thought I had some stuff pulled up, but I don't know. All right, I'm just gonna smoke some weed. I'm just gonna smoke some weed. I do, I do like blueberry muffins. I don't like fruit pie, except for banana. Oleaginous. Same with mulberries. Yeah. I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the flavor is great. But I do like blueberry pancakes. Veruca salt. That's who I keep thinking of. You're right. I keep thinking of Veruca salt. At farmers market used to have a vendor who would scream, "Blueberries protect you from cancer." It's true though. They were right. They were right. And like broccoli too. What's going on with this? I think my lighter's starting to crap out. I'm pretty sure this was a poorly stuffed joint. Now I have to commit. I have to commit to this joint. I have to make the commitment. Mm, 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 mm. Wait, that's fine. Like, what is going on? What is going on? Good debate. I love crepes with bananas, strawberries, and blueberry. That would be good. That sounds really good. I don't know what to do with figs though. What do you guys do? You slice the fig and do you eat the whole thing or do you peel figs? How do you prepare figs? Because I would actually like to try because I know they're probably really good for you. I think, aren't they? I think they're really good for you. I'm gonna check and see if there's anything on. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? You know, I don't claim to be anything but just a human. You just wash and slice them, sort of pry open and eat the inside. So would I like scoop out the inside and put it like on like a toast point? You know, I'm known for my toast points. No, just eat it all. Well, that's good to know. Let's. Do you guys eat the rind of brie? Can I get some feedback here? Do you guys eat the rind of brie? Well, yeah, except the stem. Thank you, Mind Truth. Okay, good. I'm going to try. I'm going to really try. Cuz they had some at Trader Joe's last weekend. So maybe I'll go back to Trader Joe's and see if they still have them. You do eat the brie rind? Okay. I wonder why I just can't. I don't find it delicious. Is that wrong? I mean, I suppose you'd eat it if it was inside a baked brie. I mean, I'm not saying it's not edible. I was just wondering what people normally did. Tough to find good fresh ones, but they're probably better. I think these ones are good because I think they grow them in the desert. I think they grow them in the desert. Oh, I'm sure I do. I mean, I don't know someone with a fig tree. I'm sure I've seen a fig tree. I'm confident of that. But I would like to do like a little fig and goat cheese and like, you know, whatever. That might be a nice treat. You don't eat the skin of peaches? Are you kidding me? Why not, Kathy? I'm so curious. What kind of peaches do you get? Oh, the best bit. God, okay, I'm missing out. I'm clearly not in sync. You're in Cal, yeah. I don't know what a fig tree. Oh yeah, Humboldt fog. Fuck yeah. Mm. You know what else is really good cheese? And I think they have this on the East Coast. The Drunken Goat. Have you seen that cheese? It's so good. It's not a goat. Well, I mean, I think it is a goat cheese, but it's a hard goat cheese. It's so good. It's so good. So if you see that, get it. Yummy, yummy. Yum, 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 yum. Drunken Goat. It's so good. It's so good. You know what else is really good is Catamount cheddar from Vermont. Catamount's really good. And that I used to get in the Northeast. I don't get it out here. How we keep talking about food. Let me just see. I want to make sure we're not missing anything really super cool. Hold on. I get knocked down, but I get up again. If you're ever gonna see me there. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is not my best joint. I'll make my weed a little smaller. Maybe my little chunks of weed are too big. That's probably what it is. I get baby, me, 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 me. Wow, there's really not much happening. What a mess. Oops, oops, oops.
No.
I didn't mean to hit that. It's some court case. Stop it. Stop it. All right, well, fine. Okay. Let me go to my bookmarks and see what else, because I did have a lot of stuff that I bookmarked, so. All right, so that's that. Exploring the links. What is this? Exploring the links between political Polarization and declining trust in news media. Okay. We read that. The sane washing. We read that. Oh, yeah. When is Jack releasing his redacted shit? Sampling the first gleanings of some outdoor organic homegrown here. Nice. Fuck yeah. Go, Mind Truth. I'm so happy. I want everyone to have access to good weed. Does anyone have an update on whether... Let me check Twitter. I might just go to Gal's Daily Dose. I don't really get anything. I don't really get it. 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 Okay, close. Okay. Let's see. Hold on just a minute. 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 All right. The Daily Dose. Ah. Oops. Okay. The Daily Dose. It's so funny. It's a little bit funny. All right. Let's go through what 5G is trying to point out to us this morning. Let's see what's what. Vote.gov, vote.org. Doesn't matter. I checked vote.org. Took me 30 seconds. Really? Recently sampled such a gleaning seems to work. Here we go. 5GW. Hot takes. There's yesterday's. What a love. She puts yesterday's thread in there so you can take a quickie look. And here we go. Just Security has some news today. Israel, U.S. vow consequences for Iran attack. IDF and Hezbollah clash in Lebanon. Mexico's first female president takes office. And she's a climate person, I believe. Senate Democrats seek probe into DOJ investigation of Trump and Egypt. Oh. Russia claims key city in Ukraine's east. Oh, this is good. JustSecurity.org is an excellent website for media literacy. Highly, highly, highly recommend. And I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna keep moving because what 5G does is she puts a lot of different topics in her daily dose, and then you can go off and dive into the rabbit hole. Well, they're not really rabbit holes. They're good information. She also shares Nina Jankowicz. If you're wondering why J.D. Vance was asked if he'd certify the 2024 election, he weirdly pivoted to allege Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. I got you. And this is why, and I was screaming this last night, he said he would have done what Pence refused to do. He said that. He said that. He fucking said it. Over the past 2.5 years, the Republican Party and some on the far left have manufactured a crisis that claims Americans' right to free speech is under attack. They've ripped quotes from their context to sound scary. Tonight, Vance invoked Walz once saying, "There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation," except that Walz was speaking explicitly about voter intimidation, which is not protected speech. They have claimed, without evidence, that anyone who does research about rumors online, implements social media platform rules that protect safety and health, talks about either of the above to public or private partners, is engaging in censorship. It simply isn't true. We at American Sunlight Project have unpacked the the past 2.5 years of attacks on academics, government entities, and beyond, and shown that the claims Vance just elevated to the VP debate stage are baseless. I just want to tee that up. I want to read that. Oops, now I don't know where I am. Okay, there I am. We're not the only ones who have highlighted the lack of evidence here. The Supreme Court, with Amy Coney Barrett leading the majority, dismissed a case on this very topic. SCOTUS can't undo the damage. Let me just see what's going on here. What it was like being 36 weeks pregnant and getting death threats from the right. Right-wing media and members of Congress lied incessantly about me and my job as executive director as the disinformation. Oh, I definitely want to. Yeah, maybe later. I definitely want to read that. Censorship is a dog whistle to voters. Whoops. Stop. Oh, my God. Censorship is a dog whistle to voters who have been told over and over again that Democrats are communists, fascists, or worse. It's easy shorthand to solidify an enemy. Not surprising, because violence is a feature for this party, not a bug. Claims like these have put people in physical danger. I've dealt with credible threats because people believe I was, or am, or would like to be engaged in censorship. I did not, am not, would not. Censorship, apparently, is what Vance believes is a threat to a democracy akin to an armed mob storming the Capitol building. But the glaring difference between the two is that one of them actually happened. Wah! Wah! That's really good. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I'll put links. I will have links to everything in the description in a couple of hours, if not sooner, after the stream. So come on back. Election. Here we go. Another reminder. Amy is sharing. Everyone check their voter registration status today. 155,000 people were removed from voter registration rolls. And listen, Doug Frank told me that Judicial Watch got 1.2 million voters removed from California's voter rolls. So I would like to check the veracity of that. However, it's frightening, and I think Judicial Watch has been working overtime in states to challenge voters. We also just watched Vigilantes Inc., which, if you haven't seen it, Vigilantes Inc. is a free film made by a journalist, Greg Palast, about the situation in Georgia. And it is mind-blowing what happens down there and how Brian Kemp is single-handedly trying to suppress the vote and bring us back to segregationist. I mean, it's literally that bad. Russia. The war will end when Russia stops fighting. Any plan to negotiate or trade land for peace that doesn't explain how and why they will stop fighting is just more magical thinking. Listen, this is the thing. It is a must watch. We can't. How in the world is it right that an aggressor completely aggresses and then you're supposed to negotiate with that aggressor? I don't understand that. That doesn't seem fair to me at all. Now, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but the only way the Ukraine war can end. Let's see, I just want to see. Oh, that's nice. We have a gift article here. In an underground. Okay, so that's something I want to read too. Oh, we've got lots of good stuff. Okay, back. And there, Ukraine, Michael Weiss, is the U.S. military learning enough from Ukraine? Let's see. What's that regarding? Is that, oh man. Relatively few analysts at the service's doctrine organizations are working full-time to glean lessons from the war. How is that so? Okay, so it's about the military's evaluation of what's happening. Okay, that's interesting. I want to read that too. God, Gal, come on now. The new way of waging war. Yeah, right? Like the new way of aggression it's basically extortion. That's basically extortion. Yeah. But if you, sorry. And some Christian nationalism. It's like you only have to give the bully your lunch money Monday through Friday. Yeah, right. Well, and here's the thing, Gal. it's funny that you bring up drones because um, I recall that Palmer Luckey has drone technology that is contracted to the U.S. government. I just would like to know more about our contracts. I think we should have a conversation about Palantir and whatever Eric Prince is calling his current BlackRock, whatever he calls it. I think that would be interesting. Here we go. A pair of billionaire preachers built the most powerful political machine in Texas. That's just the start. Oh my God, this sounds good too. Jeez, what a curation, gal. Fuck, man. Fucking good curated thread today. So this is, it's ProPublica. I love it. Sweet. Oh my God, I don't even know. It's an embarrassment of riches. Let's see. And then Elon Musk. Oh, you had shared this earlier. A dangerous evolution. Has the world's richest man simply lost his marbles or been radicalized by his own platform? Dave Troy traces his beliefs and behavior to paint an altogether more concerning picture of the ex-owner's political and cultural journey. My latest for the Byline Times on Elon Musk's dangerous arc and what may be next. A must-read deep dive into the man serving as an avatar for the world's dictators. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. We're coming back to that. And then what did the Arizona how do you do this every day? How in the world do you fucking do this every day? I know you don't sleep. I get that. What the Arizona GOP's surprise reversal in non-citizen voting litigation reveals. Do Arizona Republicans support voter ID? It may depend on who's disenfranchised. Here's the point. That's such a good point. This SAVE Act would require that you prove your citizenship when you're at the voting place. So you're going to tell me that grandma is going to find her birth certificate if she has a passport, that you're going to tell me that Mima is going to find her birth certificate to take it to the polling location? Are you kidding me right now? You really, that's what you want? These guys are idiots. And Adam Klasfeld, for years, the Arizona GOP and its leaders pursued strict enforcement of voter ID rules. Then they saw who would be disenfranchised by a database glitch that put this record to the test. Oh my God, this sounds good too. Oh my God. The Arizona GOP and its legislative leaders pursued until data revealed that mostly their voters would be disenfranchised. Holy poop. That's funny. I can't read that right now, but oh my God. You know what, gal, you've just increased now my day has many more things to read. Dean Blundell welcomes Jim Stewartson, a renowned counterinsurgency expert. They dive into the complexities of modern misinformation, exploring how viral hoaxes like the recent Springfield Haitian animal eating saga unfold and impact public perception. Stewartson shares... Where is it? Stewartson shares insights on the intersection of technology and propaganda, particularly in relation to Russia's influence campaigns, a thought-provoking discussion that sheds light on the stakes for democracy in today's digital landscape. So there's a podcast recommended there. Dean and Jim talking. And of course, Nina Burley. Hello. Actually, this is fun. Today at 4 p.m., our panel of experts, including Alex Aronson and Celinda Lake, will discuss Project War on Women. It goes beyond abortion bans. Ooh. You guys want to watch that today? Do you guys want to watch that later on? Lincoln Media demonstrates ideological-driven actors are continuing to exploit both the media trust deficit and social media platform enforcement gaps to influence voter information diets. This report details how Lincoln Media obscures control of the outlets it operates and deceives its audience about its motivations. This is another thing. It would be really interesting to talk too about all the media. I know this is Lincoln Media is different, but it made me think of people like Salem Media and others, Clear Channel or whatever it is, that are conduits for disinformation. And it made me think about how do you, I don't know. I guess it's too early in the morning to ask that question. Lincoln Media, a likely influence operation uncovered by ISD, Institute for Strategic Dialogue is the organization, is targeting U.S. voters in 3 swing states. They embed political messaging within their content across 7 websites, social media, and Facebook ads to sway public opinion. So basically, everything that was happening in 2016 is happening again. That's really it. That's really what it comes down to. And now it's on drugs. Oh, we've reached the end. This is the end. Boy, that's a good one. That's a good one. I know. I have notifications for specific people who I know provide us important information. You do. It's true. Yeah, I admire your tenacity in chasing down that information. Well, I think I'm going to call it for this morning. And I might be back. I'll be back for that show, the Project 2025 stuff. I think that would be good. Falls off the bed. Yeah, I want to watch this thing. Yay! Hi, Oren. How are you? Welcome. So yeah, I think I'll end this now, and I'll come back at 1, and let's watch that. I'll set up a little reminder, and we'll come back and watch the Project 2025 stuff. Thanks, Sig. Thank you, 5G, for pointing that out. That would be great. All right. Yeah, you registered for it too. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, I'll see you later. Yeah, I know. I need some coffee too, and weed. All right. Have a great day. I'll see you later on, and then obviously see you tomorrow morning. Thank you for coming. Jim should look into Blundell's buddy Kariyama and her boyfriend. Really, Badger? Aw, I know. Aw, thanks, Oren. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. All right. Well, I'll see you later, alligators. Have a great day, and come on back around in a few hours, and we'll be here. All right. Bye. I love you guys. Thanks for being so supportive. Sorry I got emotional, but you know what? I'm an emotional human. And then, yeah, then we move on. So, mea culpa. All right. Bye, everybody.